So overnight, more than 20 ballistic missiles were fired at 2 military bases in Iraq where U.S. troops are stationed. The strike was in response, of course, to the death of General Qasem Soleimani, leader of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
President Trump is expected to address the nation this morning. According to senior Iraqi defense officials, no Americans or Iraqis were killed in the attack. That was confirmed. Yes, thank God for that. Was confirmed this morning by the United States. So we have a special show today. We're not going to be doing our normal radars and everything. We're going to hear from experts, analysis from all sides. So keep everybody, viewers of this show, as informed as possible. We have Trita Parsi, great friend of the show. He's going to give us a little bit of perspective about what the Iranian regime might be sending. There's a lot of signals and diplomacy that was breaking overnight. Aaron Mate, of course, talk a little bit about the domestic political implications around war. We have Mike Pregent from the Hudson Institute. He's going to give us the contra-narrative for there. And then we have a slew of congressmen that are lined up. We're going to be talking to them right after they receive a briefing about the situation in Iran. And finally, of course, whenever the President of the United States, whenever he decides to make a statement, we'll be able to carry some of that here. We'll react live. So it's a special show, like I said. But first, I mean, really just reacting to the news last night. It seems, Krystal, this was fired at Al-Assad Air Base, 2 other air bases. These were ballistic missiles directly fired from Iran, which is a significant escalation. However, given the fact that no Iraqi or American troops were killed, these are precision weapons, it seems that the Iranians, they deliberately did not fire at areas within the base which would have killed U.S. personnel, because that would have been a significant escalation. And they said, the Iranian foreign minister said last night that they have concluded the attack, and the Iranian state TV said that if the United States does not respond to this, then we're basically back at square one.
So they said that they do not want war.
Right.
Of course, there were, incredibly scary last night when we didn't know what was going on, when we didn't know if there were any casualties. Thank God that no one was killed, either Iraqis or American citizens. Number one, because of that loss of life would, of course, be tragic. But number two, because if American citizens had been killed, we would be in a very different place this morning. Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail, and we will at least not ratchet up immediately the tensions here. But I want to be very clear. We're still in an incredibly dangerous place. Of course, we haven't heard from the President of the United States. He did put out a tweet last night. I believe we have that tweet. Kind of a bizarre tweet, but I was happy enough for it. It says, all is well. Okay, not exactly. But anyway, missiles launched from Iran at 2 military bases located in Iraq. Assessment of casualties and damages taking place now. So far, so good. We have the most powerful and well-equipped military anywhere in the world by far. I'll be making a statement tomorrow morning. So listen, to the extent that you can rely on what the president is saying here, he seems to be indicating he also does not want to escalate, does not want to ratchet up the tensions, in spite of calls for such from many of the hawkish allies of his administration. So we'll be listening closely to what the president says. But again, we are still in a very dangerous place here, because at the same time, Supreme Leader of Iran is saying this is not enough. That's the latest comments this morning. This is not enough. We also want Americans out of the region altogether. The Iranians have also withdrawn completely from that nuclear arms treaty. So, of course, they will be potentially marching back towards acquiring nuclear weapons. Is that something that the U.S. can withstand? What is our policy going forward? We have no answers for any of that this morning.
Yeah, and journalist Jashar Ali actually had a great point, which is that the Iranian regime very rarely, basically, any nation in the world would be crazy to conventionally militarily confront the United States, right? So with the ballistic missile attack, it's a show of force. They can say, we hit them. It was basically propaganda and a proportionate response in their view, without inciting direct war. But the regime has a history of covert operations and warfare, of these terrorist attacks and all these other things. And he's warning, basically saying, look, this might be the conventional response, but these are the people who blew up Khobar Towers, or these are the people who had a Buenos Aires bomb that go off and killed 80 people. In other words, there are conventional gray zone type operations that could be significantly escalated against the U.S., and stuff like that can also spiral into conventional war.
Well,
and that's,
I mean, look
that's part of the issue.
What the initial spark was here was proxies storming our embassy. So yeah, they have proxies all around the region. We have essentially been fighting a proxy war with them for quite a while now.
Decades, and especially now.
Especially in the recent year.
10 years, yeah.
Yeah, so look, this is not an end to the conflict or the tension whatsoever. And again, we still have to hear what the president has to say this morning, but at least for now, we can be thankful no American lives were lost. We can be thankful there seems to be an interest in de-escalating on both sides, but an incredibly fraught and dangerous situation that we're in right now.
It is dangerous, and again, it's significantly changed the domestic political situation in Iraq, because now, I mean, from an Iraqi perspective, this is so sad to me, because it just shows how the poor Iraqi people, first we invaded their country, we destroyed it, a civil war basically broke out, killed hundreds of thousands, if not millions. And look at this, once again, they're stuck in the middle of a proxy war between the United States and Iran. Iran bombs an Iraqi airbase. There was initial reporting that Iraqis might have even been killed. And all I could think was, I'm like, these people didn't ask for anything, right? I mean, we're there to fight ISIS. They're there because we're supposedly on their side. We built their government. And now you have Iran, one of their historic enemies, and the United States, who deposed their government, basically fighting a proxy war on their soil. And at the end of the day, they're the ones who always lose. And I think it really bears highlighting that these poor people have been caught once again in the middle of all of this, and they didn't ask for any of it.
Well, and it also bears highlighting how all of this goes back to blowback and fallout over the stupid Iraq war and the people who got us who lied us in to that frickin' thing, and many of them justified it to this, we're gonna be greeted as liberators. I mean, the insanity of thinking this, no plan for after we actually invade the country. And listen, as you're evaluating who you want your next president to be, whether you're gonna stick with this guy or go with someone else, look at that moment in time, look at that history, and ask yourself who had the right judgment then, because that's all we have to go on, right? As we're determining who the leader of our country should be, who should be the commander-in-chief, which, as we can see, has immense powers. I mean, this president could still very easily get us into war with Iran with no vote, no accountability, no nothing. It's completely within his control. Ask yourself, who has had the right judgment in the past? To me, this event has been incredibly clarifying in thinking about exactly how to make that all-important decision of how you're going to cast your vote for the next commander-in-chief.
$2 trillion later, 16 years, and we're still there.
All right, we're going to have a lot more expert analysis for you. In this show, we're going to cover all angles of this, and we welcome all perspectives here to hear the best arguments made all sides around, so stay tuned for that right after this.